Stop chasing motivation. Build a system that does not care. I have sent over 85,000 applications, and I can say this without exaggeration. I was not motivated for most of them, not inspired, not energized, not inclined, and yet they were completed. So let me begin with something that may challenge a widely accepted belief. Motivation is not the solution. In many cases, it is the distraction. Most people are not underachieving because they lack ambition. They are underachieving because they have built their lives on something inherently unstable. They wait to feel ready and confident. They actually wait to feel inclined to act. But emotion is inconsistent. It fluctuates, intensifies, and many times recedes. So, if your output is governed by how you feel on any given day, your results will always remain unpredictable. And without consistency, there is no accumulation. Without accumulation, there is no meaningful outcome. This is where the miscalculation begins. The issue is not capability, the issue is the absence of structure. Let me be precise. Discipline is frequently misunderstood. It is often associated with intensity, with force and exertion. But true discipline is far more restrained. Discipline is repetition without negotiation. No internal debate, prerequisite, or conditional engagement. You execute the task because it is required, not because it's easy or appealing. And yet, even discipline has its limitation because discipline still depends on willpower, and willpower is finite. It diminishes under stress, it erodes under fatigue, and it disappears when conditions become unfavorable. So if your life is dependent on willpower alone, sustainability becomes impossible, which is why the real shift, the one that creates lasting change, is the shift from discipline to systems. A system does not inquire how you feel, it eliminates the need to decide. It converts effort into default behavior. You do not wake up and ask whether you will act. It has already been determined. You do not negotiate. You simply proceed. This is how high performance environments function. In business, systems scale output. In sport, systems create consistency. In life, systems remove hesitation. And hesitation is extremely costly. It will cost you time, momentum, opportunities, and these opportunities do not reappear. So the question is no longer, how do I remain motivated? The more accurate question is, how do I construct a structure that functions irrespective of how I feel? Let's make this practical because without application, insight remains theoretical. There are three foundational elements to any effective system: environment, time anchoring, and minimum standards. First, environment. Your environment should reduce friction between you and the desired action. Most individuals design their surroundings in a manner that complicates initiation, and if initiation is difficult, execution becomes unlikely. So simplify the starting point, reduce resistance, position yourself in a way that makes the correct action the most accessible one. When the entry point is effortless, consistency becomes achievable. Second, time anchoring. Later is not a strategy, it is an evasion. It is undefined, negotiable, and ultimately ineffective. Instead, attach actions to fixed points in your day. After waking, this occurs. After training, this occurs. And before rest, this occurs. Same time, same action, repeated daily. Over time, the mind ceases to question. It begins to recognize the pattern. And once recognized, the action no longer requires motivation. Third, minimum standards. This is where most people fail. They set aspirations. They do not establish non-negotiables. An aspiration is optional, a standard is not. Rather than saying, I will attempt to be productive, you define this is the minimum level of output that will be completed regardless of circumstance. Not excessive or unrealistic, but absolute. Because consistency is not built on moments of intensity, it is built on daily completion. Even under suboptimal conditions, particularly under suboptimal conditions. Now, we move to what truly differentiates systems from intention. Triggers. Triggers initiate behavior without requiring conscious effort. They eliminate hesitation at the point of entry. There are external triggers, an alarm, maybe a location or a specific cue, and internal triggers, a sequence, routine, or a pattern reinforced over time. The moment the trigger appears, the behavior follows. No delay or resistance at all. And once that loop is sufficiently reinforced, action becomes automatic. At that point, discipline is no longer required to begin. The system initiates itself. This is where many misunderstand high performers. They attribute outcomes to motivation. But motivation is rarely the driver. Structure is. Design is. Repetition, executed over an extended period, is. Allow me to contextualize this. My output has not been sustained by emotional drive. There have been periods of fatigue, doubt, and periods where continuation was simply unappealing. And yet, the work was completed. Applications were submitted. Auditions were recorded. Tasks were executed on a daily basis. Not because I felt compelled, but because the system did not require my consent. It required my participation. So if you're waiting to feel motivated, you're waiting for something that was never designed to sustain you. Motivation is useful in moments, but systems are what carry you across time, across resistance, uncertainty, prolonged periods where results are not yet visible. And this is the phase most individuals abandon, not due to a lack of ability, but due to an inability to tolerate delayed outcomes. They seek confirmation prematurely. They expect alignment immediately. They require reassurance. But growth does not operate on that timeline. Growth requires repetition without evidence, consistency without recognition, commitment without immediate return. And it is within that phase that identity is formed. So the question you must ask yourself is this: is your life governed by emotion or by design? Because if it is governed by emotion, it is inherently unstable, and instability over time results in collapse. You do not require a more compelling mindset, you require a more reliable structure. Something that functions when you are fatigued, when you are distracted, when you are not at your best. Because those are the conditions that determine your trajectory, not the moments when everything feels optimal. So, stop pursuing motivation. Stop waiting for readiness. Construct something that operates independently of how you feel. Because the moment your actions are no longer dependent on emotion, you achieve consistency. And the moment you achieve consistency, you become formidable. At that point, success is no longer uncertain. It becomes inevitable, given enough time. Because time combined with repetition always compounds. So I will leave you with this. At what point do you stop asking how to feel better and begin constructing a system that does not care how you feel? Because that is where transformation truly begins.